Well, two organisations who've been working flat out during the pandemic and actually working quite closely together are the Cambridgeshire Community Foundation and Cambridge Aid. I'm joined on the line by the Chief Executive of the Cambridgeshire Community Foundation, Michael O'Toole. And I'm also joined by Nicola Longdon, who's the Chair of Cambridge Aid. Michael, let's start with you if we could. Cambridgeshire Community Foundation's been going for some time, but you set up a special COVID-19 response. How's that been going?
It's been amazing, Neil, and the first thing I want to say is thank you to everybody who's got behind the fund and supported it, and not least to Cambridge 105 and to you, Neil. You were there right at the beginning supporting us, and it's been a fantastic county-wide effort to try to do something positive in the face of this pretty dreadful pandemic.
So in real terms, what did you do? You put out a general appeal for money and then decided how to spend it?
That's it, yes. Our day-to-day work is to raise and create funds and to award grants to the community groups and charities doing work across Cambridgeshire. We've been doing that for 15 years now, but when we saw what was happening with the coronavirus crisis, we decided to make a public appeal and to go out to all of our donors and supporters and say, we need to get a fund together so that we can help communities to respond and to particularly to look after the most vulnerable in those communities at this time. And that's what we did. We launched an appeal, and we set ourselves initially a target of raising, I think it was £250,000. And pretty quickly we realised that wasn't going to be enough. So a couple of months ago, we said we wanted to try to raise £1 million, and that was the target we set ourselves.
And
well, so far, thanks to the generosity of the general public, businesses, councils across the county, and also we've been fortunate to be working with the national appeal through the National Emergencies Trust. We've been receiving the funding for Cambridgeshire from the national appeal. Altogether, that's meant that we've now raised just over £900,000.
Wow, excellent stuff. From that initial target, that's very well done. Super. Well, one of the charities you've been supporting is Cambridge Aid. And Nicola, you've had a couple of donations, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, we have indeed. Very early on, the Community Foundation very kindly and generously gave us an initial sum of money, which we dispersed quickly, as I'm sure you can imagine. And we've just been very fortunate to receive a second. So I can't tell you, how grateful we are to you. Heartfelt thanks to the Community Foundation for that and for the difference it's going to make to so many people's lives. So, as you know, we're working with people, with sponsors who are working with people who are financially challenged, and this pandemic has just piled misery on top of everything else. So I do have some examples when you're ready of how we've been spending the money.
Far away, because it's interesting to see how Cambridge has been doing during the pandemic. It'd be interesting to get some figures on that.
Well, it's been the usual things that we've had requests, but differently with the pandemic. So, for instance, a couple who had separated, the ex-partner was a nurse at Addenbrooke's and had to go back working. So the partner took on 50% custody of the children, but the children didn't have mattresses at the home for them to sleep on. So we funded things like that. We've had washing machines that have broken down from people, again, who are just on basic benefits and, just unable to function, really, with multiple children at home. The children being at home all the time as well for the pressure on food as well. Cookers, we've had a lot of requests for cookers as well, which has been essential. Lots of benefit muddles, which has left people with no money at all. So lots of emergency grants for food. But the thing I think that we felt has been really amazing is the ability to provide computer bundles to families where the children have not been able to access online learning. So we've given quite a number of awards from the COVID grant for that. One particularly distressing case of a mum with 4 children, and she only had a mobile phone. That was all they had in the house technology-wise, and she was trying to homeschool her 4 children just with that.
Looking forward, we have that feeling that we're on the edge of a real crisis because we're seeing the jobs market already. We're seeing people just knives going through the jobs. Nicola, how do you see it in Cambridge going forward?
I wish we had a crystal ball at this point, if I'm honest. It's very difficult to try and get any handle on what's going to happen. Yes, you're right. Once the furloughing ends and the unemployment really starts, we have contacted all the children's centres, and this is where we've had, generally had lots of requests in the past that have been much slower and quieter at the moment, when they expect to get back to normal, because obviously they've not been able to go into people's homes and so on. We're expecting an absolute deluge. We have also changed our welcome page on our website, giving people who are unaccustomed to seeking financial help ways to access help, because I think that's what we're expecting next. So the problems that we usually encounter will be compounded, but we are going to be looking at a whole new group of people who we have never had to help before, and frankly must be terrifying for them. So we're gearing ourselves up for that. So we don't really know what to expect, but we are bracing ourselves, I think it's fair to say. We're changing the way we operate at the moment, so we're making sure grants are given within 2 to 3 days now. It used to be 2 weeks. We're kind of super responsive, and we're just, we're just doing what we can. So if it means putting things through people's letterboxes, to help, if that's the quickest way to do it, that's what we're doing.
Fantastic. Michael, let's turn to you then. The Cambridgeshire Community Foundation, this work is going to have to continue, isn't it?
Absolutely, Neil. We're really starting to think now about the longer term and lasting effects of the pandemic. Sad to say, all of the evidence and indications is that it's going to be the most vulnerable in our communities that get hardest hit for the longest. Nicola gave some really pertinent examples, but we're also hearing about things like the rates of domestic violence have gone so sadly through the roof. There's a huge backlog of cases waiting to be heard. So it's creating huge stresses and strains on everything, isn't it, really, on families, on relationships, on economic strains in terms of the jobs market, etc. So we know that the impact is going to be very long lasting. And what we're trying to do now with the fund and with the grants that we're giving is we're trying to find those charities and community groups that are really targeting and working with those most vulnerable. And we want to be able to support them for a longer term now. Lots of the grants have been very short term about crisis response, but now we know that what's needed next is going to be not 3 months or 6 months, it's going to be a year, 2 years, 3 years of support that these groups are going to need now, because the effect is going to be so long lasting.
Well, it's good to know that you're doing that, and it's good to know that Cambridge Aid are there helping people right at the front line. So we wish you both luck. Thank you for coming on the line and telling us about it. We'll keep an eye on the situation and monitor it over the coming months. But for now, Michael O'Toole, Nicola Longdon, thank you.